the actual form. So for federal purposes, you use Form 1040. Before the tax reform in 2017, there was this thing called a 1040EZ, which, as the name implies, easy. It's for people who have really simple tax returns with, like, maybe you only work and that's all you do, and you don't have investment income, you don't have any other benefits or whatever, or credits. You can use 1040EZ, and it's just a one-pager, super simple. But after the tax reform, everyone files Form 1040. And this is for 2020 because the 2021 ones aren't out yet. But if you guys have your own tax returns, you can look at it there. In the first section, filing status, you would check your filing status. Next is your basic information, your name, your address, your SSN. You can choose to donate to presidential electoral campaigns if you want to. 2020, they asked you if you have any virtual currency. So you'd have to check this box. If you did, if you can be claimed as a dependent, you check here. If you were born before here, that means you're like over a certain age, you get bigger ranges for IRA distributions. So they want you to check this. Oh, and if you are disabled, specifically blind. Dependents, you'd have to list them, but let's jump into the actual meat of the tax return. And this is exactly what the tax formula is. You start out with gross income, right? Boxes 1 through 9 are all income. Not line 9 is your total income. You start with gross income, and then you adjust your income. So that's section 10. Oh, that's 10. 10A through 10C. That's all your adjustments to income. And it's actually, all the adjustments to income are on Schedule 1. So let me just show you what Schedule 1 looks like. So Schedule 1, if you have extra income that's not on page 1, then you'd have to include here. So unemployment is in here. If you rent or have investments in partnerships or S corporations, you put that here. Any businesses, loss or gains, you put that here in additional income. But part 2 is adjustments to income. This is what we want to look at to lower our AGI. So remember the educator expenses up to $250 for line 10. There are a lot that you might qualify for. So if you want to lower your taxes, take a look. Remember the self-employment tax or the FICA taxes that you have to pay if you're self-employed. Half of it or part of it gets deducted on line 14. IRA deduction, if you contributed to a traditional IRA, that's line 19. Any student loan interest, line 20. Tuition deduction, that's line 21. You'd have to fill out this extra form, subforms. There's so many subforms, but this is the specific subform you'd have to use. And then that's your total adjustments to income. And then you just have to bring it to line 10 of page 1 here. So you just pop it in right here, 10A. And then if you contributed to charity, you put that in 10B. And then you get your AGI after subtracting your total adjustments to income from your gross income. AGI is line 11. And then afterwards, there's standard or itemized deductions, right? They even list that on the side here. If you take the standard, this is the amounts. If you itemize, you'd have to fill out Schedule A. Let's look at Schedule A. So these are the major sections, the same ones I talked about: medical and dental, taxes you paid, interest you paid, gifts to charity, casualty, theft, loss, and other itemized deductions. So if your itemized are bigger than your standard, take itemized and pop it here along with Schedule A. And then after subtracting that, you get to your taxable income. AGI minus below the line deductions is your taxable income. After that, we pop into line 2 or page 2, and then you calculate your taxes. So you can so these are the extra forms that you can use to calculate your taxes, but you can really just check here, and then I think here you can do tax table. From here, you get credits, right? 19 is the child credit. There's some other things that lower your taxes, but then at line 24, that's your total tax, right? After that one credit, there's other credits. That's probably on Schedule 3. But if you have any other credits that are before adjusting, then you would pop them in over here. And then this is your total tax. You can lower total tax with the amount that you paid during the year, right? So anything you paid through W-2, anything you paid through 1099s, or anything else that you withheld from, you'd put it in here. And that lowers the amount of tax you actually physically have to pay. And then estimated taxes as well, line 26. And then all these other credits down here until you get to refund or you got to pay them. You just sign off and you're good to go. And you have to attach all the subforms and pretty much your tax return is done. Form 540. Oh, why didn't I just click the link slow? 540 is the California tax return. So California didn't change yet. There's still a 542 easy. So this is an easy form. It's only 4 pages versus the 5 pages. And you wouldn't have extra schedules here, but then you would have extra subforms here. So same thing, you know, information, general information, filing status. California gives something extra called an exemption. Federal used to do that, but after the tax reform, you only get standard deductions because the point of the tax reform was to make filing taxes easier. So the Trump administration just got rid of exemptions altogether and just gave you a bigger standard deduction. But California still gives you an extra thing called an exemption. If you have dependents, list them. And state wages here. And then basically California starts their calculation by taking the federal's AGI. So take your line 11, which is your AGI from your federal tax form, and tell you to pop it in over here. And then anything that needs to adjust between California and state, you just put them as adjustments here. And then you would get your California adjusted AGI. And then California, the common one, probably relevant to us now, between the difference between federal and California is unemployment, right? Unemployment is taxed at the federal level, but it's not taxed for California. So if you receive unemployment benefits, this would be a subtraction. You would lower your AGI because it's not considered income. Okay, that's one of the adjustments. There's also other Fed state differences, but I don't think they really apply to us if you don't like invest or have your own business. Okay, when are your taxes due? Your taxes are due April 15th, and the next business day if it lands on a weekend. But generally, tax day is April 15th. And if you don't think you can file your taxes on time by then you have the option of extending your tax return filing status by 6 months. But you still have to pay your taxes on April 15th. So they don't care that you file your form later, because remember, it's just informational. And if you want a refund, if you owe or owed a refund, then you're just delaying your refund. But if you owe taxes, you have to pay them. They don't care that you file your form later, but if you owe taxes, you have to pay them on April 15th. Otherwise, there's penalty. And the Fed, IRS, actually require you to fill out this extra form called the 4868 saying I'm extending. But for California, they're like, okay, whatever, just file it later. But if you owe taxes, pay them now. Tax preparation software, I highly recommend beginner tax filers to actually use tax preparation software like TurboTax or Credit Karma. What the tax software does is it walks you through everything. They ask you what kind of income you made during the year, any major milestones in your life that may lead to a credit or may lead to a deduction or an adjustment to income. And for me, I think TurboTax does the best. It's very user-friendly, and they ask you a lot of questions, and they have a lot of technical support available. And it's actually free for people with simple taxes. And by simple taxes, I mean like you only work and you have interest income or just a little bit of income, but no investments or whatnot. And it's free with one free state filing as well. Credit Karma is entirely free, but I don't recommend it for beginner tax filers or people with extremely complicated taxes, because some forms are not supported for the free version. And it's still a new software, so they have a lot of things to work out. And there's also TaxAct, which is also popular, but not that many people, I think our generation or like the younger generation uses it because it's not that user-friendly. I tried it one year and I jumped ship back to TurboTax because it was not as user-friendly. So this pretty much concludes the presentation, and we had some pre-event survey questions that I will answer. Do I need an accountant? It depends on your needs and the complexity of your financial situation, and if you're familiar with filing your own taxes, right? If you've never filed your own taxes before, and you have a lot of investments, or you own a home, or you rent and have various sources of incomes, and you might owe taxes in another state, then yes, you should get an accountant. And if your finances remain the same throughout the every year, you know, and you get familiar with what your tax forms look like and what credits you take and what forms you fill out, then after that, you might not need your accountant anymore. But up until then, I would recommend it if you have complex taxes. Which tax forms apply to me? So there are a lot of subforms, but the main ones that matter, right, are the Form 1040, which is for federal, and Form 540, which is for California state. And there are a lot of subforms. Usually the main form will tell you if there's a subform that needs to be completed. So if you invest, there are at least 2 subforms that you have to fill out. Where can I find what credits exist that I can apply for? You can web search and just Google like common tax credits or tax credits for XYZ, and a lot of things will pop up. Again, I personally, whenever I Google something, I like looking for NerdWallet because then their interface is very nice and it's clear, concise, and they have these different colored rows. But don't limit yourself to Googling, right? Stay on top of the knowledge and the current events that come out. Watch the news. You know, I wouldn't have known about the rebate credit for if you missed your stimulus if I didn't watch the news and know that you could file your taxes to get your stimulus payment if you didn't get it. How do I save on income taxes? Deductions, credit, and tax planning. So all of those things can help save on taxes. So if you think that your income is going to go over a bracket, maybe make less. Or if you're still within a bracket, then make up to the bracket amount. Maybe get married, contribute to your IRA, stuff like that. How are tax brackets calculated? We went through how they're calculated. And is it based on the total income at the end of the year? Yes. Does it ultimately matter if you get a big sum of income in 1 month? No. But it does affect your estimated taxes. So you have to recalculate your estimated taxes if you suddenly got a big sum of income that you did not withhold taxes from. My coworkers believe you shouldn't sell your vacation days because you'll be tax tired. Is that true? I don't know what selling your vacation days means, but if that means that you're going to make more money, then yes, you will be taxed higher. Remember, I talked about this. Yes, you're paying more taxes, but only if it exceeds your bracket, right? Otherwise, your rate doesn't really go up. You're using the same effective rate if it's still within your bracket. What should I do to prepare for taxes? What would make my life easier? You can choose, optionally, you can choose to track your tax progress during the year, like you would estimate taxes. So if you know your income so far, right, you don't have to estimate it for the whole year, but if you know your income so far, you can calculate, like, based on what I know and I have so far, this is how much taxes I would owe at the end of the year. And you can either decide to pay estimated taxes or withhold more from your paycheck. And that's pretty much it. Let's see if I have any questions. No questions? No questions. Okay. Any verbal questions? Sorry, I wasn't monitoring the chats.
Should
No
we do the
questions for me.
yeah, should we do that a little poll before we break out into discussion?
Yes, William, take
Sure,
me out.
I can stop the recording right now, and then I'll do another recording for the discussion.
Pay how much you owe, give us this money, and then we pay, and then like without dealing all the taxes by ourselves.
There isn't enough. Number one, there's not enough bandwidth for, I don't know how many people live in the United States, firstly, right? And also because there's federal and state level, and even lower than that, that's a lot of people that have to watch everybody's taxes, right? And they also don't know what credits and deductions you qualify for, right? The government doesn't, that I know of, spy on us. So they don't know that you have a child. They don't know that you rent. They don't know that you own, well, they kind of do know that you own the home. But, you know, information between each taxing authority isn't really shared. That's why. So, like, if San Francisco knows that you own a home, only San Francisco knows. The federal level doesn't know that you own a home. So they don't know that you owe mortgage interest. They don't know that you pay property taxes. So there's a lot of like complications between that. But yes, it would make our lives super easy if they did our taxes.
Also, adding on to that, like I am by no means an expert, but I have heard like there's been people who have pushed for more sort of making it easier to file your taxes, like having a tax filing form that is like pre-filled out. I think that was a proposal that was put forth by Hillary Clinton way back in 2016. Of course, that didn't go anywhere. But I think one of the big stumbling blocks for that is that like nobody wants to appropriate, nobody who's a politician wants to appropriate more funding for the IRS because it looks bad. It's like wants to pay more money to the administrators. But if you do want more administration, then you do need more to hire more people to actually take care of that stuff, right? But I just don't think there's any political will to make it easier.
Yeah. So what oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I just was curious. No, I've not been bought by TurboTax.
How much did they pay
you? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of related. I was gonna ask like what would improve the process? I know you kind of answered it with like obviously if we can magically make all the government authorities share data and talk to each other easier. But like before that, is that the only answer to making the process easier, or what kind of improvements do you think can be made?
I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure. Yeah. But I think main one is probably talking between tax authorities, and also maybe just like getting rid of a lot of self credits that you have to self-declare, right? Like giving so many options to taxpayers for reducing their tax liability is, number one, very daunting and confusing. People are losing out on credits that they might qualify for, but they didn't know about. So just get rid of that altogether and just like lower the taxes or something like that, depending on certain qualifications. I don't know.
So the burden on the taxpayers is probably not efficient, and it doesn't work that well.
Right.
Well, isn't it kind of set up right now where it's like it's set up so that the government assumes that you're like sort of like every citizen is kind of like their own little business, right? Isn't that sort of the thought behind our current tax system? And that's why
pretty much,
yeah. That's why you need to go up and claim these.
Yeah, so it's a lot of burden to the taxpayer. So yeah, like just researching for this presentation, I learned about a credit I didn't even know about previously, the Savers credit. Like, if I had known that, I would have invested to retirement to get that $1,000 in credit, right? When I wasn't making as much.
I wonder for everybody, if they do their own taxes every year, you know, how much time they spend. I didn't do mine myself this year, so I can't answer that question, but I'm just curious.
I think I took like 40, 45 minutes. It wasn't too bad. As long as you have all your documents with you, you'll be fine.
Mm.
And most of the documents you can access online. So I like pull my whatever stock forms from the investment website online, Charles Schwab or Vanguard. Get my is it W2? No, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and like
it's all online now, so it's not as bad.
yeah, but like James said, like people who've never filed their own taxes before, they might feel a little insecure whether they're doing it correctly or not. So especially like first time ever filing your own taxes, you don't have anything to work off of. Like if a professional filed your taxes before, at least you can look at your old ones and be like, okay, well, at least I claimed this, I claimed that. So it looks generally right. But if you never filed your taxes before ever and it's your first time, it's very daunting. You don't know if you got it right.
Yeah, I think it took like 2-3 hours my first time. So it took a little bit, took it slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a shot this coming year. Probably we should have a whole thing where we do it together.
Oh yes.
A group file taxing.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do
I'll do
yours,
it
you do mine.
Don't worry, Steven. I'll help you like fraudulent your documents and like
Yeah,
get money from the IRS.
I got like 10
I got you.
dependents, bro.
But I have an accountant actually, or like someone from Chinatown that does it for me, because I
Yeah.
don't trust TurboTax. Because there was a whole thing about like them lobbying like what Will was saying, back then they were trying to like make filing taxes easier, and then TurboTax and green one, whichever taxing
H&R
company,
Block.
H&R Block, they were lobbying for like not make it so easy. So
Yeah.
we would
Yeah.
have to like go find them and pay for their service. And their
Tax
company
prep
is
industry.
worth it's worth billions. So like they didn't want us to like, you know. But definitely if you're a first time user, because I remember when I first filed my taxes, I used TurboTax too, and it's so easy, so simple. But I hate them because I'm a social justice warrior.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, like if you invest, I would get it accounted for at least the first year so you know what you're doing. Because there's so many sub forms. There's like Schedule D and then Form 4797 and a bunch of other stuff. So there's like form after form after form. They're like, okay, if you do this, then fill out this form. If you don't do this, then fill out this form. And it's just a big giant rabbit hole. But if you have a tax accountant, then they know what they're doing. Cool.